Hey guys, it's Shokz here, and this is going to be a very basic beginner's video on hotkeys and control groups. If you guys are familiar with them, then this video may not be for you, but it's mainly designed for like new players and basically going over the breakdown of the very basics of using hotkeys and control groups. So to start off, I'm going to go over hotkeys and what they are. They're just keyboard shortcuts rather than clicking everything. So if I was take this SCV and to build a supply depot, a lot of people would click build and then they would then select your supply depot and start building. Oh, that's not what a hotkey is. If you click over build, you're gonna see B is in the brackets, and that means that B is that hotkey. So if I click B on my keyboard, it's gonna pull up my build menu. And then supply depot, at the very end of supply depot, you see that S is in brackets, so that shows that the hotkey for supply depot is S. And that's the same for all buildings and units. Barracks would be B, engineering bay would be E, turret would be T. So the more you play, you'll eventually just memorize these things, and they're very easy. So if I was to build a supply depot, let's just take a look. If I was to click build and then supply depot, that takes a couple seconds, where if I was to click BS, that takes not even a second. It's really quick, and that's the importance of hotkeys, because it really cuts down your time and the amount of time it takes to build things and build units. And if you ever want to be at a higher level in Starcraft 2, you have to always use hotkeys and control groups. So like it's a must-have. If you're never going to get placed into platinum or diamond if you're not very efficient into with your hotkeys and shortcuts. So if I was to build a barracks now, I would click BB, and I can start building barracks. And that's just what you want to start doing with all your anytime you build something. I'd recommend maybe going and playing some practice games until you get like the basics of your hotkeys down. But the key is forcing yourself to use them. You don't want to be clicking build and then finding what you want to build. You just want to have it memorized. And then you'll also see, besides build, you also have advanced build structures, which the hotkey is V, which is right next to B. So you have B for your basic structures, then V for your advanced structures. So if I was to build a factory, I would click VF. I'd be able to build a factory. So that's one thing you have to get down. And again, like I said, it takes a little bit to learn these, but after you force yourself to use them, they become really easy. So to build a factory, I would just click VF and start building the factory. And then as you see, there's hotkeys for every single thing in this game. So to add on a tech lab to this barracks, I would just click X. So I would just highlight the barracks, click X, and tech lab would start being added on. Same with factory. And again, like eventually you're going to get the hotkeys down. It just takes time and practice. Besides hotkeys for just building units, and it's the same for every race. Terran, Zerg, Protoss, they all have hotkeys for all of theirs. So if you're a Protoss player, you would just take your drone, and to build a pylon you click BE. With a Zerg, to build a hatchery you would click BH. So it just all depends on what race you're playing. They all have hotkeys a little bit different depending on the race, because there's different units. So besides just hotkeys, you have hotkeys to build units also. So if I highlight my three Raxes, you're going to see that to build a Marine, the hotkeys a Marauder is D, Reaper is R, and a Ghost is G. So if I wanted to build two Marauders, I would double tap DD, and then if I want to build two Marines, I would click AA. And as you can see, it's queued up. Two Marauders and then two Marines in the order that I press them. And this is very important, because when you're in the using control groups, you need to know the hotkeys so you can efficiently build units while playing really quickly. So that leads to the next big point, is control groups. What control groups are? They're hotkeys that you specify. Where these are hotkeys that Blizzard has for every unit and every race. Actually, before I do that, I want to give go over hotkeys of actual units also. Units such as Sea Shanks that have special abilities, Ghost, they all have hotkeys for the special abilities also. So for a Sea Shank, to siege up, I would just click E. So the entire point of that is, if I have a group of units selected, I click D to unsiege my Sea Shanks. And then while they're selected, and then or I can click E to siege them back up. And that same goes for a ghost. So I can click E to fire off an EMP round, R to do a sniper round. And again, once you get used to your race's hotkeys, it becomes really easy and makes your entire gameplay that much faster and quicker. So it's really important to get those down. And as you can see, whenever you have a group of units highlighted, you're gonna have them all, but usually it brings up like what the Blizzard feels is the most important unit. So I have my ghosts. When I highlight all my units, you're gonna see my ghosts' special abilities. You can click tab and it will sort through each of the units, highlight each different one. So now I have my Marauders highlighted, and then I click tab again, it now goes to my siege tanks. Or now I have my Marauders highlighted, and now back to ghosts. So Marines, siege tank, Marauders, ghosts. So you just hit tab to sort through them. So whenever you have an entire group, you can tab to get siege tanks, and then unsiege them, and then you can move them around. And then once you get to the area that you want, you can siege them up. You would actually be using a shift command, which I'll go over in other videos, but that's just showing that each unit has their own hotkeys for their special abilities. So like Marauders and Marines, if I was to upgrade Stimpack, you would then get the Stimpack ability. So in the middle of battle, I would just have my Marauders or Marines highlighted and hit T, and that would give them the Stimpack ability. So now over to control groups. Control groups, again, they're hotkeys that you assign for your own structures, units, or really anything you can assign control group to. And what they are they're these numbers right here. And how you assign a control group is you highlight whatever you like to have as control group, and then you click control and then whichever number. So for this Marauder, I'm going to set him to a control group of 1. So I highlight the Marauder and click control 1, and as you can see, it just set him to the control group 1. So let me bring this over so I don't have to deal with the computer. So now anywhere I'm at, I can click 1 and it's going to highlight that Marauder. I can double click 1, double tap it, and it's going to take me right to that Marauder. So I could be in the middle of the map, I can click 1 and it highlights that Marauder, or I can double tap 1 and it's going to take me right to this Marauder. This can be used for multiple selections. How I set up my control groups always is my main army, I'll always have 1, and then for 2 and 3 I have set up for my separate for like individual units. So like a ghost I would have set as 3, and I've already have 2 set for 2 reapers. So I have 2 reapers set down here, and I just double tap 2 and I highlight my reapers. I can also be over here and hit 2 and it's gonna highlight my reapers. Double tap and I get to my reapers so I can control them. So that's the importance of control groups, how you can set your own units or buildings. And as I was saying, you can also set buildings. So if I want to set all 3 of these barracks, I can I double click them to highlight all 4 actually, and then I click control 4, and that sets all these barracks to control group 4. And what makes this so nice, and this is very important in a game, whenever you're controlling, so if I was to be controlling these 2 reapers and I have a lot of gold I need to spend, I can click 4 while controlling these units, and then click DDD, AAA, DD, AA to start building units. As you can see, they're building units by just clicking the hotkeys for them. I don't have to click anything. So I have these Reapers selected, I click 4, and then I click AAA to build 3 Marines. Or I have them selected, click 4, RRR to build 3 Reapers. Or GGG for Ghosts. So again, that's the importance of hotkeys, because you'll be controlling your main army down here. You'll be controlling your main army down there, and you'll run into, you want to keep unit production up, because while you're microing, you don't want to just stop producing units. So that's where the hotkeys come in from. You can then start building the hotkeys, or you can be building units based off while you're microing. So that's the importance of getting the control groups down. And again, it's very important that you get those control groups down, because it's going to allow you to quickly access all your units, your buildings, and everything in your base. I'm going to go over a couple other videos of how I set up my control groups. I'm going to do a video for each race where I explain how I set up my control groups for the Terran race, my Protoss, and when I'm playing Zerg. So that way you can see exactly how I set each one of them. This is just like a brief example of the basics of control groups and what they're for and how to use them, and also hotkeys. But in the next videos I'm going to break down how to set each one up. So for example, I have my orbital command set for 5. So if I'm controlling my army, or just Reapers that I'm trying to harass down here, I click double tap 5 and then drop a mule really quickly, and then go right back to my Reapers. So again, the control groups are really important, and so are the hotkeys. Like, I can't emphasize enough for new players when you're first starting the game. You really need to make sure you're using control groups. If you make sure you never ever take a unit and click build and then find what you're trying to build, that's just a very bad habit. The only thing you ever want to do is click B, and then while you're learning you can look to see what they are, and I say I need to find an engineering bay, I see that, and then click E to build it. That's something you guys have to get down if you ever want to be like a good Starcraft 2 player and ever get really fast and get higher APMs. It's really important that you get those basics down, and then once you have those basics down, you can go on to more advanced builds and getting really good with the hotkeys and everything like that. But again, I can't emphasize enough. And then setting your control groups, you really want to use your control groups. You should be using all of them. Like, again, the general outline for control groups is usually 1 through 3 is your army, 4 through 6 or 7 would be your production buildings, such as my factory, starports, or command center, barracks, and then the rest, like 7 or 8, 9, 8, 9, 0 would be your upgrade units, or upgrade buildings, such as engineering bay, armory, and any extra things that you need. So just make sure you practice them, force yourself to do them. Once you start doing them, they become very easy, but the key is, it's just like anything. Once you just have to force yourself to do them, and once you actually get in the habit of doing control groups, it's going to become second nature to you, and you won't even have to think about it. So again, I'm going to be going over how I set up my control groups for all 3 races in the next couple videos, so I will see you guys next time.